What's up? What's up, guys? We are live.
What's going on, man?
You see it. I'm going to step out real quick and let y'all start the show, and I'll jump right back on in a second, but we're definitely live.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I want to thank you for tuning in to our Training Talk Live. We're back on Thursdays again. This week, I'm pretty excited about who we got. We got Nick, and if I butcher your last name, I apologize. Nick Delgadillo from Starting Strength over in Texas. He runs a class, a lift, shoot, fight class that, I'm been a starting strength guy now for a little over 2 years. I've been doing the program. So that, I first got introduced to the program when I was doing CrossFit, like a lot of people back in 2012 or something like that. And,
Yep.
The coach taught us the bench, the pack squat and stuff like that, and gave us the whole, if you want more information, go to the main site. Well, on the main site, it was all Mark Ripito.
Right.
Teaching, all that stuff. And I became aware of Nick. My wife actually went to a coaching clinic with him and my strength coach, Pete, and she came home and was like just raving about you and Pete both. They're like, oh, I think you really like Nick. He gives you the whys. Because when I teach, I like to give the whys. And it's not just because I was in the Marine Corps or that's how it's always been done. It's always the why, physiology, neurology, psychology. And that's what really attracted me to Starting Strength was the efficiency. You're worried about efficiency, and right. And you give us the whys,
Sure.
So, Nick, welcome to the program. You want to give everybody a little bit of your background?
Yeah, sure. And I mean, you can be honest, man. You can tell everybody that she came home and said that I was great and Pete was just okay. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. A brief background. I'm a strength coach. Been a starting strength coach since 2011. I've been teaching self-defense for coming up on 20 years now. So I've done martial arts and self-defense for a very long time. I've coached people for as long as I've been doing this stuff. So my background is in coaching, developing instructors, coaching coaches. Primary job right now with the Starting Strength gyms is just is mostly that, helping with coach development and stuff like that. So a training background. I've carried a gun for as long as I've been legally able to. And then as a self-defense instructor, people always ask you about stuff. So, and me being the way I am, and, you probably the same way, you want to keep learning and keep acquiring knowledge and keep getting better. So that's all just kind of a natural progression from my background working with normal people. The stuff that I was involved with early on with martial arts was really working with people who had never done much physical before. This is kind of their first exposure to anything fight related. So I got pretty good at teaching normal people how to do things. And I think that's kind of set me up for all of the stuff that I'm doing now.
Yeah. Like Barret and I both, we work on the instructor development from the shooting side with the defensive focus shooting through ICE training. And then we help develop the defensive shooting fundamentals for the USCCA. And the way you guys seem to, I've never been through the class, but I'm an avid listener to the podcast and follow what all you guys at Starting Strength do. And your model's a lot like ours and even harder than ours, where people come and it's not, we're going to give you a certification at the end of the couple days. We're going to teach you how to look at people moving, teach you how to coach that person to move better, and then how to program them to get better, your clients and stuff. And that's huge, because in the gun world, because you've taken some certification classes, you've been through instructor development with other instructors, and you've probably seen some classes where everybody gets the prize at the end of the weekend.
For sure. Sure. Yeah. A couple things. The thing that appealed to me about Starting Strength, and it was the same as we were talking a bit earlier, it was through CrossFit. And CrossFit's just this thing that's kind of trying to do everything at one time. And then you listen to Ripito talk, and the guy has some solid principles and very deep understanding about what he's talking about. And not only that, but also a way to present it that makes sense to the audience, regardless of who they are, what their background is. So that really, really appealed to me, because I've always tried to look at things from a principles-based perspective, like what actually makes sense, where can I find common ground with anybody I'm talking to on whatever the subject is, whether it's strength training or fight training or jujitsu or shooting. And then we build off of that, right? So if those fundamentals are solid for the instructor, then you just have an overall better instructor, right? So that was a big thing for starting strength. I came into this thing, I was like, whoa, these guys are doing like all the stuff that I like. They're explaining things the way I like. It makes sense. There's logic. It's not just like, this is what the best guy does. Like, you're telling me why this is the way it is. And very, very appealing from that kind of perspective.
Yeah. I'm big on the why. Like, don't just tell me what to do. Tell me why I should be doing it this way. And then like, give me the buy-in, let me, take it in, think about it, and then actually say, okay, yep, they make a complete sense, and this is why I'm doing it. Like, I sort of fell back into starting strength. I was in a motorcycle accident. A lot of our viewers know this. I broke my kneecap in half, broke my ankle, tore my arm open, and I was going through PT. And thankfully, I had a good physical therapist that when I was taking a long time to get to 90 degrees because I had no surgery. I was a natural heel, so a lot of scar tissue.
Oh, wow.
Hey, I was like taking forever to just get 90 degrees of bend, and I would come home and literally like basically crash land onto a bench, doing air squats, and then all of a sudden I was like with 3 plates stacked on top of it, and then I'd take off a plate, and then I was getting to the bench, and then I'd grab the bar and like would put the bar on my back, and oh my God, you'd throw up in your mouth if you saw some of these videos of me going down to this bench of just like complete and utter crashing, and rocking forward. And then I was like, you know what? I remember Mark Rippeteau back when I did the CrossFit stuff, and then started looking, and then felt like, and I had the blue book the whole time, just never bothered cracking it open like so many people. And started watching those videos. And I'm like, wonder if they got a program. And then I ran into the NLP, and I sort of got hooked because I went from 90, couldn't get to 90 to all of a sudden I'm breaking scar tissue up, and I'm getting better squats, getting deeper. And even by the time I got to Pete, that poor guy, 6 months of dealing with me, watching videos going close, but not quite deep enough, close, but not quite deep enough, then backing me off. So I got completely hooked because, my 50th birthday present was, a motorcycle accident. And basically the last part of my life, I was probably going to walk around with a limp and not mobile. So, starting strength kind of saved me.
Well, sure, man. And here's the thing, the situation becomes obvious when you experience something like that, when you have an accident that's life-changing, potentially life-changing or worse, right? The capability that you had or that you want, and how to keep it and how to acquire it, just like it's like right in your face, right? So you've gone through this thing, and you found a method that helped you tremendously, and like you understand, right? But the thing is, for most people, most of the time, when we're talking about self-defense, and that means fighting, and it means being able to use a weapon, and it really means your emotional state and your overall capability in terms of how you carry yourself and how you interact with the world. All of those things are affected by your baseline physical capability. And my argument is that strength training is the thing that's going to give you the most bang for your buck in terms of improving your overall capability. Whether that's holding a gun, managing recoil, having a strong grip, whether it's grappling with another human being, or even just overall health for being able to do the things that we like to do, like training and shooting, for well into your 60s, 70s. You gotta be strong to be able to do all these things, aside from all of the mental and emotional benefits that come from just doing something hard that's controlled and doesn't have the potential to like severely injure you. You can go into a gym that's air conditioned with a barbell, and it's you and a barbell. You got to add 5 more pounds. You got to do the work to get stronger. And that's a profoundly difficult thing to do over time, but it's relatively safe, right? It's not like you don't have to go do force on force training to have these experiences. You get to have them in your garage gym, right? And it's so it's a smaller version of those things, like these experiences that people have, like an accident, combat, fighting somebody, surviving something. or doing really, really hard training. But all of those things have a potential to really mess you up, right? Where, you know, I don't want to really equate barbell training to that kind of stuff, but it's a small dose in that direction. And on top of that, you're just increasing your overall baseline capability, just your overall ability to do things well, you know? So a barbell and a good coach, you know, or a barbell and a very motivated person who watches videos and reads the book can get it done very simply, you know?
Yeah. You know, and that was when I first saw you put together the lift, shoot, fight class, I was like, you know what? I'm like, it makes perfect sense. Like, there's others out there. Like, I've trained with Craig Douglas. Barrett's trained with Craig Douglas. I've trained with Cecil Birch. Trained with a bunch of people that like incorporate the fighting and the shooting, but then adding the strength. And like when students come to me at the end of class, because all I do is shooting. I teach, you know, pistol, rifle. That's me on the range teaching. They'll say, "What should I take next?" And I'll say, "Well," I'm like, "you really should look into first aid." And if anybody told me what's the first class I should take if I want to carry a gun, I'd say you probably need first aid before you even bother carrying a gun. Like, how do you deal with a gunshot wound? And then now I tell people, get into a strength program, you know, like get strong, because you're more likely to need to be strong in life than use a gun in life. Thank God. At this day and age, you're going to need strength more than you're most likely going to need a gun. It's still a first world country, despite what the news media wants us to see.
Right.
You know?
No question. Yeah. And the idea with lift, shoot, fight is, you know, people always want to focus on the thing that they enjoy and the thing that they're good at. So you have people who are into guns, you have people who are into fighting. Sometimes there's crossover there. You know, I've done a lot of classes with same guys, you know, Craig and Cecil and those folks, and fantastic instructors, fantastic coaches. But everybody understands that fitness is a part of being capable of defending yourself, you know, whether that's with your hands or with a knife or with a gun or with a rifle. Fitness is a part of it. But the big question is, how do you acquire fitness, right? And that is a massive question that's very confusing. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of people who perform at a very high level that have opinions that shouldn't have opinions on how you and I and our students should be acquiring strength, because they honestly don't know. Like, they're already high performers. So what works for somebody at a high level isn't necessarily the best way for this brand new person to do the thing that this high level person is doing, right? So everybody looks to the internet, or they look to this expert, or they look to the people that they admire from a coaching standpoint or from a performance standpoint, and they try to emulate what that individual does in terms of the fitness side of things. And it happens with the shooting and the fighting too, right? You know this stuff. So,
absolutely.
But with you know, so our the reason for the lift, shoot, fight is, look, you know, let's just be honest about this. If you want to be able to defend yourself, you've got to be able to shoot. You know, and shooting also in the context of within arm's distance, right? So it's not only just, you know, 7 yards, 5 yards, 10 yards. It's you know, what happens within arm's distance, because that's a very likely thing, and that's actually the hard problem, right? So the fight part is dealing with an individual at close range and being able to access the weapon and retain your weapon, right? So basically, you know, it's the Shiv Works paradigm. It's what Craig Douglas and Cecil and those guys are teaching. So, and then the shooting part of it, that's in the lift, shoot, fight camp, it's very fundamental. You know, you get people who have never even handled the gun before. We've had a couple guys from New Jersey show up who, one of who was actually scared of the gun, all the way up to guys with extensive combat and special forces experience. Like, these are the kind of people that show up to this thing, right? So we established just the baseline for shooting, just fundamental stuff on the range, you know, before we move into the training stuff with the cert pistols. But the missing component there is the fitness side of things. And what we're trying to do is show that here is your best path towards fitness and capability. And it's pretty simple, and it's really efficient, and it's the best use of your time outside of these other things that you care about, like lifting, like shooting and fighting and anything else, right? So, you know, if I'm a guy that enjoys shooting on the range, I don't want to spend 4 hours a day or 4 hours 3 days a week in the gym. I want to shoot, right? I want to dry fire. I want to do this stuff. So if you can come to an agreement that fitness is important and that capability is important, physical capability is important, then how do I spend the least amount of time in the gym and get the most bang for my buck for what I actually want to accomplish, which is health, longevity, being able to train. And if something ever does go down, I'm actually strong enough and resilient enough to be able to deal with it. Right.
Absolutely. I mean, like I tell people that when in my gun classes, like Barret, I'm sure you've seen this too in your classes, like there is really not a weight problem. It's a lack of strength problem. Really. It's right. People that, we'll do an advanced pistol handling class where we have them kneeling on the ground, sitting on the ground, laying on their back on the ground, in accessing the weapon and getting on target. And then it's time to get back up off the ground. And that's when the problems start arising. It's just the basic strength to get yourself up from the ground without needing to like grab a chair, grab something else, and control the weapon, like not point the gun all over the range as you're trying to stand yourself up. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, just get strong. I'm like, you can have the best program, but honestly, if you have the best program and don't do it enough, it's useless. You have to be consistent. Like just be consistent. An average program with consistency is going to give you more returns than you looking for the best program ever and program jumping for month after month after month because you haven't found exactly what you like or what you identify with. Exactly right.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And when I say baseline capability, that's exactly the stuff I'm talking about, and people don't realize how, the years pass and you don't realize how bad things have gotten for you. The people that are in the demographic that can travel and pay for training and, spend a weekend paying $1,000 and buying the ammo and have the guns to do this kind of stuff generally. Right. They're well off. Usually they don't have these super hard lives where they're physically exerting themselves all of the time. Absolutely. You have guys that show up that don't realize how bad things have gotten for them. And all of a sudden they're being asked to go prone and then stand up or just something very simple like that. And it's like, you shouldn't be going to a 4 or 8 hour pistol class where you're not doing crazy, like running around, jumping over barrels and stuff. Like you're just doing basic movements. You shouldn't leave that feeling completely wrecked. Like, what does that mean about when you actually have to use this gun? Is it going to be just someone hits the beep and then you draw your gun and no, there's going to be something that happened before and something that happened after. And what does that look like? And what is your proficient or not your proficiency? What is your accuracy going to look like if you've just had to run like 10 yards, or you're scared, or you've just had to fend off a punch or something, and now you've got to shoot somebody, and you don't even have a baseline strength to be able to just get up off the ground. How well are you going to shoot at that point, right? So it's like it's all tied together, and people miss that. There's no you can't layer skill on top of a poor baseline of I say fitness, but really it's strength.
I think a lot of people, the big misconception is, well, I don't have to be strong, I don't have to be limber, I don't have to be fast because I have a gun, right? But as you mentioned, it's not as simple as the shot timer going off and you stopping a bad guy. Something happened before, something's happening during potentially, and things are happening after. And you got to be, you've got to have the fitness, to be able to come out on top on all of it.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. What somebody said to me, and they go, "Don't you ever go more than 5 reps?" I'm like, well, sometimes I do, like on volume day, I do 4 sets of 5 or 5 sets of 5. They're like, why don't you do more than 5? I said, because I want to get strong. And I said, if I study fights. I said, if I get a hold of the first person and crush their skull, the other one's going to lose interest anyway. So why do I need to do 100 reps? I'm like, the ability to produce the strength to get the desired effect. And that's anything being like funny about it, but
well, it's the truth. Anything that you can do for, if we're not doing 5, what are we going to do, right? Anything you can do for 8 reps or 10 reps isn't heavy enough to make you stronger. And if you're strong enough that you require that many reps per set, you don't need to hear our opinion on strength training. Like you're already very, very strong and you know what you're doing, right? So most people, most of the time, absolutely the sweet spot for getting strong is around sets of 5 often and as heavy as you can go. And the program, the starting strength program, takes full advantage of that fact. And that's a fact. I mean, if you look at any, even, we have I guess you would call a contentious relationship with the exercise science community. They're wrong about most things most of the time, but even they will state specifically that strength is acquired in the 4 to 6 rep range. So yeah, 5 is right in the middle of the 4 to 6 rep range. So that's not even up for discussion. Anybody who knows, any personal trainer should understand that sets of 4 to 6 are what makes you strong. So the program is designed to be as simple as possible and to take advantage of the fact that people who are not strong can get strong very, very quickly. The other thing to probably talk about is like, what does it mean to get strong? Because people kind of instantly put this idea in their head of a like muscle-bound bodybuilder or a power lifter, somebody who can't move well, somebody who gets winded wiping their butt, or that kind of stuff. And that's not the idea, right? It's like, what are you doing today? Where are you today? And just get stronger from there, right? So we're not talking about specializing in strength. We're talking about getting stronger, which are two different things, right? Becoming a power lifter or a bodybuilder represents a specialization in that strength area. We're just talking about getting stronger because it affects all of your physical attributes positively. Everything, it affects your conditioning, it affects your balance, it affects your coordination, everything.
Well, you own a BJJ gym and you coach BJJ. Like, I'm sure you've seen guys that have like hit the mat that like are on a strength program, and you got guys that hit the mat that all they do is roll. That is their exercise. There's a huge difference, right? Like, you could have two guys. One guy, I would guess, the guy that's stronger might not be as good technically than the guy that only rolls. He could probably give him, keep up, if not beat the other person because of that edge that strength gives you.
No question. No, you're not wrong. Absolutely no question. When a guy walks in and he's strong, and let's not even say big, he's just strong, he is a problem for everybody in the room. Everybody, like the guys who are very skilled, obviously he's less of a problem for him, but he's still a problem, right? Because he's strong, so he can move better typically. When he holds onto you or when he grabs onto you, you got a stronger grip to deal with. If he doesn't want to let go of you, you've got more work to do. And when you hold on to him, you're going to have to work harder to hold on to him, right? So absolutely, the idea in martial arts that strength doesn't matter, that it's a detriment somehow, is extremely antiquated and silly. Like anybody who actually fights will tell you that that's not the truth. And if they don't tell you that, they're fooling themselves, right? And all you have to do is exactly what you said, right? You walk into a jiu-jitsu gym and there's two people. There's people who are strong, and there's people who wish they were stronger. I mean, that's it. Some people wish they were bigger, but there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, you can get bigger with lifting, but they wish they were taller or, just bigger overall. But everybody can get stronger, right? A perfect example right now, my coach, Chris, who's the black belt at our school, he's not a tall guy. He's like 5'8" or 5'7" or so, and pretty light, 160 maybe. He went to the lift shoot fight. The first one we did, started lifting a little bit, kind of dropped it, and then started getting excited about it again. And he's been doing, he's a skinny dude, like very lean. He started drinking the gallon of milk a day. This is a 44-year-old guy, doing the thing that like 17-year-olds need to be doing. By the way, we don't recommend grown men usually drink a gallon of milk a day. This guy, Chris, is underweight. So, I was like, dude, drink a gallon of milk a day. Cause he's telling me that his lifts are slowing down. They're starting to get hard. I was like, you got to eat more, man. It's like, well, it's hard. Okay, well, drink your calories then. Get some whole milk, drink it. So he did it, and he's drinking a gallon of milk a day. It's been two weeks, and the guy has put on like 9 pounds. And when you roll with him, there's a difference. And this is a black belt, by the way, right? So he's already strong. I don't care, he's a small guy, but he's already strong because he's a black belt. Black belts are strong. They have to be. There's no weak black belts running around typically, unless they're promoted, inappropriately. But he's a good black belt. He's strong. And after about a month and a half of barbell training, you feel a difference when he grabs you. I mean, it's obvious. You're like, whoa, dude, it's like, what have you been doing? And that's exactly what happens every single time. Somebody starts getting stronger and they immediately start to perform better in something like jiu-jitsu or really anything that you do, think about the fundamentals of just controlling a pistol. It's easier for people who are bigger and stronger to control something that's recoiling and moving in your hand. I mean, that's so obvious, right? I mean, obviously there's mechanical things that need to be done to make everything more efficient, but the baseline underlying all of that is just your strength, right? So there is a difference. There is a difference between, me firing a pistol and my son, who's 14 and weighs 130 pounds, firing a pistol. Doesn't matter how mechanically efficient his grip is. When you watch me shoot in slow motion, you watch him shoot in slow motion, my gun's going to move less, right?
Absolutely.
It's just the way it is.
I mean, you have your grip. You're also a lot stronger. So you're like your shoulder muscles, your lats, all that stuff is all engaged as you're driving that gun out to totally control it. And I tell, I've seen people on the range show up and they have revolvers, and revolver is a whole other show, but there is a better choice. It's the 21st century. And we do have these things called auto loaders, semi-automatic pistols. And I will constantly hear, well, I could not rack the slide. And I will say, well, one, unless you have some severe physical limitation in your body, I can teach you a technique that you can rack the slide. But there is a time where strength would help you. If you were stronger with a better grip, you could manipulate the gun the way it needs to be manipulated. And you don't have to have, a 300-pound bench press and a 200-plus press and all this other stuff, or a 500-pound deadlift grip strength. You just need to do a little bit of something, and all of a sudden it'll be like, why was that ever even a problem for you?
Yeah, for somebody that's in that kind of condition where something like racking the slide on a Glock 19, I've seen it on a Glock 19 is a problem. The like 6 weeks of strength training. So what does that mean? Like if you can squat maybe 55 pounds the first day, we're talking about getting your squat to like 100 pounds, and that's not a difficult thing to do for most people most of the time. So we're talking about like 5 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks of strength training, and that problem is solved. I mean, like no joke, that problem is completely resolved for that person. So just like think about the difference there. Like I have now this specific technique I have to do because I'm not strong enough to run the slide on this gun, versus spend 5 to 6 weeks strength training and solve that problem and solve a whole bunch of other problems in your life as well, right? Because if you can't do this, there's other things in your life that you can't do that you probably want to do or may need to do, right? So again, man, it's just like it's a thing that just is all encompassing in terms of just honestly our existence. And that sounds real grandiose, but just like being able to interact with the world, or the physical strength is the largest component of that, and that's kind of an extreme case. You got somebody who's very, very detrained and can't, run a slide. But for somebody like that, they're going to feel the benefit the fastest and the most, and the fastest, and they're going to derive the most benefit from it. Guys who are relatively in shape, relatively fit, will see the results a little bit longer and have to do heavier weights. For somebody in that condition, it's super easy, man. 6 weeks and you're back to like what most people would consider a normal level of strength. It's not that difficult to do.
Yeah, Barret, I'm hogging everything. Like
I feel left out because I'm not part of the strength coaching program.
I keep pounding Barret. All right, Nick. So like I used to have chronic back pain. Like I would spend 2 days on the range, and if it was, God forbid, it was an advanced pistol handling class, where in the advanced pistol handling class, us as instructors have to demo every position. So seated, we have to demo getting the gun out on target and then recovering to standing for the student, so that they're not putting themselves in compromising positions, with like overextending, putting their shoulder in a bad position for push up and all that kind of stuff. And like after a 2 day one of those classes, I literally felt like I was crippled. Now I say, I'm gonna knock on wood. Since I starting strength and doing deadlifts all the time, because back when I did CrossFit, they had me on a trap bar because supposedly I had stripper butt when I was trying to deadlift. I couldn't get into the right position. Like since I've started deadlifting, I have not had any back problems whatsoever. I can do the most ridiculous things, and like my back stays together. Like a bad pull on a 300-pound deadlift, and it doesn't hurt my back. I mean, my deadlift's still kind of weak. I mean, it's only in the 4s, but I will have a 500 deadlift before the year's out. But
it's all relative, right, man? Yeah, I mean, guys who, and this happens over and over and over again. Guys who come in and they've had back pain for 2 years, right? My back just hurts. I tweak my back all the time. I'm worried about doing this program because I have a bad back, right? The bad back. Those things resolve in a month or 2 months from deadlifting, and it's complicated why that happens. Like, you know, I'm not going to sit here and like tell you exactly why that happens, but it happens. You know, part of it is because you're getting stronger. Part of it is because you're you're kind of disinhibiting this pain mechanism that's going on between your exertion on your back or different positions and stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, you're stressing a structure that you haven't stressed in a very long time. You know, when you're a kid or a teenager, you're active, you're moving around, your back is seeing plenty. You know, you're moving around. Like, what do we do after we're like 35? You sit at a desk in a cubicle somewhere for 8 to 10 hours a day. You maybe get up for lunch or a couple of breaks, and then you get in your car and you go home, and then you kind of do the same thing. So, you know, it's exposing yourself again to a stress. Ripito in the book says lifting weights with a barbell is substitute caveman activity. Great way to think about it, right? It's like making you do something that's controlled, it's scheduled, and it's making you better. It's kind of that simple. But again, I don't know the reason why it works so well, because you could try other things and it'll work a little bit, but it won't resolve back pain the way that just doing deadlifts will. Like, it's just predictable. You know, dude comes in, my back hurts. Within about a month and a half, his back does not hurt anymore. Like, you'll ask him about it, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, like it doesn't hurt anymore." Like, they'll forget about it. Yeah, it's crazy.
I used to spend 30 minutes or more like doing like crazy like yoga poses and all sorts
stretching.
Of stuff that's supposed to relieve lower back pain. And like once I started deadlifting and like got into it more, because at the beginning, you know, I'd tweak my back here and there, but it was my own fault because instead of me pushing the ground away, I was trying to stand up before I was driving. But even then, like my back would hurt, and I tell Pete my back hurt. I said, he'd go, "All right, well, let's see how it works next week." And he'd throw in my deadlifts with 5 pounds more. He goes, "If it hurts, let me know and we'll figure something else out." And it was the weirdest thing. I'd lift it the right way. Even when my back hurting walking around, I could deadlift, you know, 5 pounds more than the previous week. And it didn't hurt deadlifting. It hurt doing something like sitting in a chair, you know. Now I've gotten away from that. I learned that if I ever wanted to get past 305, I had to stop trying to stand up with it and just drive the ground floor away.
It's a tough lesson to learn, man.
I know. Exactly. So, and that one was all for Barret, because Barret refuses to deadlift.
Well, I mean, to be fair, to be fair, that's true. I kind of do. Now, I mean, you know, I used to be pretty active in CrossFit, you know, typically 5 days a week. You know, through that, we did a lot of deadlifts, and, you know, and I'm not going to blame CrossFit on it, but there were plenty of times where my ego is what drove the speed rather than, you know, me trying to make sure I was doing a quality lift. And so if we were doing something where we were stacking deadlifts, that's where I would end up tweaking the back. And you know, I used to have back issues years ago, and I've been able to strengthen enough where it's rare that, you know, I run into back problems. But when I was running into back issues with CrossFit, it was when I was doing deadlifts. But like I said, it wasn't the lift so much as it was the quality of the lift.
Yeah, the other thing to remember too is, you know, something like CrossFit, the thing where you experienced the problem isn't necessarily the thing that caused the problem, right? So, you know, you got box jumps, you've got burpees, you've got all of these things going on that accumulate, and then it just so happens that the position you're putting yourself in with the deadlift is the trigger that causes the tweak or causes the compression or whatever it is that's going on that's causing that, right? So yeah, I mean, the deadlifts are inherently safe. In fact, like, we've got a whole network of not personal trainers, of physical therapists who are starting strength coaches, and their clinics look like, you know, the gym that I'm standing in right now. There's a rack and barbells, and they're rehabbing people's backs with deadlifts and squats and benches and overhead presses. I had a pretty severe back injury, actually about exactly a year ago. I was walking on a cane, real bad herniation in my low back. I couldn't really stand upright for about 2 months, and just really, really bad pain, really, really rough. But I hired one of these guys, Will Morris, who's a starting strength coach and a physical therapist, an Army physical therapist, a very good one. And yeah, the rehab was very heavy rack pulls and deadlift, and it took a while to get there, right? But it's just going back to these basic barbell movements and getting my back stronger. And here we are a year later, and I just sent him a message a few weeks ago. I was like, my back feels normal for the first time in like years. You know, I mean, it's crazy. And just this amount of stuff that he's got me doing, you know, pulling heavy weights is something I would never do myself, because it's like my back hurts. Why would I? This is insane. Why would I do this? You know?
Just doesn't seem right.
It doesn't seem like the right thing to do, you know?
So we got a comment over here. Jerry, 71 years old and a bad back. Don't know about this ? But I'll tell you, like Nick works for him, so you might think it's just he's just giving you a commercial. Go to startingstrength.com's YouTube page and look at testimonials, and you'll see a lot of people out there that are older than you doing this stuff and how well it benefited them. Am I wrong, Nick?
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Our gyms are full of people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s learning how to do this stuff. So, and improving their lives. I mean, it's not. Look, I mean, like I said, we're not making people into power lifters. We're not. We don't have a bunch of large bearded men yelling in the room. Like, none of our coaches operate that way. It's a serious thing, and we're teaching you how to move correctly and efficiently, and loading you appropriately, and doing it all while maintaining proper mechanical positioning and all that stuff. So it works really, really well. I mean, you know, if the first day you come in and all you can deadlift is a 15-pound bar, that's fine. Next time you come in, you're going to do 20 pounds, and then you're going to do 25 pounds. And through that process, that slow, gradual process, you know, we're not going to put 100 pounds on the bar just because we're strength coaches and we want to make you stronger. You don't get stronger that way. You get injured that way. You get stronger by a slow, incremental, gradual accumulation of stress on your body, and that's our specialty.
Yeah. And I like I said, I'll testify that it works. You know, like I had bad back. Recovering from knees, like my squat's not what I want it to be, but it's been 2 years of nothing but going up, and I just keep getting stronger. And now I sit here and look at, you know, on my 51st birthday, I could bench press 225 one time, and I got the video of my wife going, "Try it." I think you got a second one. I didn't have a second one. Like, I got the video of her pulling it off of me. And then today I benched, you know, at 53, I benched, you know, 322, a lifetime PR, I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't remember my 20s too much. That was all in the Marine Corps. But like the military, I always thought I had to do it the military way. Like, I needed to be able to go 20 miles with 100 plus pounds on my back and then be able to fight. So I was always doing like the endurance thing. And that's what sort of like CrossFit was like, oh, okay, it's more like my military stuff.
Exactly.
But I honestly felt like the more like CrossFit, I spent more time complaining about something that hurt. My shoulder, my elbow, my back, my knee.
Yeah, I came at it the same way you did. I mean, I was, you know, I lifted in high school for football, and then didn't lift barbells for a long time. Just messed around with machines, and then CrossFit came around 04, and I probably found it in like 06, 07 or so. But it was like, man, this feels like, you know, when you're doing these workouts, it feels kind of like what it feels like when you're sparring somebody. It's like you're getting that level of breathing, and it's, you know, it's hard, and it feels really hard, and it's fun. You get that like endorphin dump at the end. But, you know, you do it for 2 years, and what you get out of it is really just the ability to be able to make yourself really, really tired and a bunch of really beat up joints, and you don't get much stronger. Your actual capabilities outside of just some conditioning benefits are not there. Right. And even the conditioning benefits aren't that great, because it's conditioning is specific. Right. So you're getting better at doing CrossFit. You're not really getting better at doing much else. So, yeah. And then I found rip starting strength and rip stuff through CrossFit. And it just made a lot of sense. And turns out that it works, you know. For the guys doing things that are hard, like jiu-jitsu and MMA, you'll find that you really don't need to do much more conditioning as you get stronger outside of just your practice. You know, you go roll 2, 3, 4 times a week. There's no need to do anything else other than lift.
Hey, now, I'm sure you probably watched it. Like when it might still be on, but it's not on an easy channel to find. But the Ultimate Fighting Championship show, that reality show, and it always looked like when they weren't like sparring or working on technique, like they were doing like almost like CrossFit-y type workoutes.
Sure.
Like they were going to complete burnout. So
Sure.
Is that still a thing, or is that they're doing something specialized at that time? Because I've heard guys say I do BJJ, or I do Krav or something like that, and I do the endurance stuff. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. It's not my specialty.
That's one of those things. It's just what people do because fighting makes you winded. You know, and so they're like, well, I need to not get winded. So the way I don't get winded is by doing a bunch of conditioning. And the problem is that the conditioning is not generally not specific enough. And if they haven't if they haven't spent time getting stronger, they would see performance improvements through that avenue before they'll see a bunch of performance improvements in conditioning. Now, when we're talking about like pro level fighters and stuff like that, you know, them doing a training session of hitting mitts or hitting a bag or sparring somebody else at that level, that's not a tremendously stressful event like it would be for somebody who's been doing MMA for 3 months, right? Every time they go to boxing class, they're gassed, they're trashed completely. For the professional fighter, that's not the case. So there's a good argument to be made for somebody at that level to layer in conditioning, because what you would have to do to get a conditioning effect from just fighting is fight harder, fight someone bigger, fight more rounds, right? All of these things at that level are going to lead to injury, right? So it's like you got to balance the two things. So it becomes really confusing at that level, because they do absolutely need to get stronger, but they're at that level because they're already strong. They were born strong, right? They're elite athletes. They're getting paid a lot of money. Well, maybe not a lot of money, but they're getting paid money to do this. They've been sought out to do this specific job. Those people were born to do that job, and they're already very, very strong, right? So like if they walk into the gym and they've never barbell trained before, they're going to be lifting a relatively high amount of weight on the first day. Does that make sense? So they're already strong because they're genetically predisposed to be strong. So that's where things become confusing, because, you know, you and I will watch that as lay people will watch it and be like, well, that's what that individual is doing for his conditioning, and he's the best. He's one of the best in the world, or he fights in a style that I think is really cool, so I should do that too. But remember what I just said. The guy was born with a genetic endowment for explosiveness, for power, for speed, and for strength, right? So it really doesn't matter what that guy does. I mean, it matters to him, maybe. But as far as we, the normal, you know, mortals walking around on the earth, that has nothing to do with us. So our approach is to take a basic process and run a process and see where it heads, right? So you start simple, 5 lifts, 3 sets of 5. We'll start there because that works for everybody. It doesn't matter how strong or weak you are, it works for everybody. And then we run the process, we add weight, and then we see where things go. You know, some people will move through that much faster. Some people will move slower. Some people will finish that out with a massive amount of strength, you know, squatting 400, 500, 600 pounds or something like that. And some people won't. You know, it's just like you start to specialize depending on what your needs are. And that's the intelligent way to do it, right? But that's also kind of boring, and it's hard. You know, it's harder than just picking and choosing some things that you saw on The Ultimate Fighter and going to do those. And that's exactly what I used to do, right? Like we were all UFC fans, and you just watch like a workout. They put out a video, and this guy's doing this, like he's like flipping tires and taking a sledgehammer and hitting the tire, swinging a kettlebell, sprinting over here, pulling a fire hose, you know, and then moving the ropes around. You're like, oh man, that looks like a killer workout. So I would take that, write down what it was, and then just go do it, right? Yeah. But it doesn't affect anything. Like it doesn't help your conditioning, because even that is not as hard as doing 5 rounds of sparring. It's not, you know, the 5 rounds of sparring is always going to be harder. So, but strength bypasses all that problem, right?
And like you said, genetically gifted. Like I wish I like my teenagers, like I grew up playing football, ice hockey, and lacrosse. And the only time I went in the weight room was when I had to for those sports, because I am not genetically gifted when it comes to moving barbells. Like I'm not like naturally strong. Like my sports prowess was always, I was mean as a hornet and wouldn't stop. That was like always my like go-to. Like I didn't make teams, my travel teams or any of that, because I was the strong kid. I was the kid that just wouldn't stop. You're going to break my nose? Well, I'm going to take out 2 of your teeth. Like that was me. And I wish I had learned a lot younger. Even when I was in the Marine Corps, we never went to the weight room. All we ever did was pull-ups or chin-ups, sit-ups, and run. And then when you were done, you'd run some more,
right.
For endurance. And then once in a blue moon, we'd get a break and they'd send us to the weight room if we wanted to for our PT. And I was never good at it. But, now I know, well, damn it, if I would have just been consistent, even doing bad programming, if I'd have been consistent, at least I would have gotten a good bit stronger than what I really was.
Right. Yep.
So like any of our viewers that are watching, don't sit there and think, well, I've always been weak in the gym. So was I. And some guy that's 6'4", 250, whatever I'm weighing in at, could probably outlift me. And I'm sure there's a 140-pound CrossFit girl somewhere that can deadlift and squat more than I can. But guess what?
Yeah.
When I'm 60, they're not going to help me get off the couch.
Yeah, and nobody cares about that more than you yourself, right? So
right.
Like you walk into the gym and you think all these people give a crap about how much you're lifting or whatever. Nobody cares, dude. Everybody's there for themselves, which is fine, right? So you're there just doing your thing. Nobody's looking at you and judging what you're doing. And if they are, you're in the wrong gym. Like just go somewhere else. In fact, like the best places to train, and this is totally counterintuitive, but the best places to train are like hardcore powerlifting or bodybuilding gyms. Like everybody there, they look scary as hell. They smell bad, but and the gyms are sometimes pretty trashy looking, but everybody there is humble and nice and welcoming. Like they're happy to see you there, even if you've got 80 pounds on the bar, right? It's just, it's like with anything. When people are doing things that are difficult, it tends to weed out a lot of the people that you don't want to be around, right? So, yeah. So one of the thing with this camp, what we're doing is trying to just introduce people to lifting who maybe have never lifted before. We're trying to introduce people to shooting who maybe haven't shot before, and then we're trying to introduce people to the integration of self-defense with a firearm, and it's people who have experience benefit from it, always benefit from seeing a different approach. We get people who are pretty experienced and have been around, but we're also there for the beginner, and everybody benefits from it. So you shouldn't be intimidated to try something like this, a workshop, a strength training workshop, going to a gym, going to a starting strength gym, hiring a starting strength coach online. Nobody cares. The coach especially doesn't care what you're lifting, right? Because it's like, I don't even care what's on the bar. I just care about adding more weight tomorrow or the day after, right?
Yeah. So the strength part of it is you and Ripito coaching that, and then the fighting is the fight part. Is that just you, or do you have somebody else with you? And then I'm assuming you do the gun stuff too, because you're certified through Tom Givens. Right?
Yeah. Myself, Ripito, and John Valentine, we're the three that run the camp. So I kind of cross over into both areas. Me and Rip and I run the lifting part on the first day. So it's Saturday, Sunday. Saturday morning, we get into the gym. We teach everybody how to squat, and we do a squat session. Then we do the overhead press. We teach everybody how to overhead press and do a press session. And then we teach everybody how to deadlift, and we do the deadlift session. We don't do the bench press because most people have already had some exposure to the bench press. It's not that hard, and it just will take up more time. So we focus on the 3 lifts that people need to actually learn, and that they haven't probably done correctly before. And then that takes up the first half of the first day. So we spend 4 hours, 4.5 hours or so working on the strength training side of things. We also talk about how strength training fits into this picture of self-defense and being self-reliant and all these things. And then in the context of also shooting and fighting, how strength is important there. Then the afternoon on Saturday is a range session. So 4 hours on the range. John Valentine runs the range session. So John's a phenomenal instructor. He's a black belt jiu-jitsu under black belt under Matt Larson, the father of modern Army combatives. If your listeners aren't aware who that is, and he runs a really good class. Really great guy. So I met him at one of Craig Douglas's classes a couple of years ago, and we've kind of talked and been friends ever since then. So when I thought of this thing, and this is something I've wanted to do for a long time, lift, shoot, fight. You know, I thought initially that I was going to do it by myself because I've been teaching things for a very long time, and I'm very picky in particular about who I associate with in the teaching world. And when I met John, I was like, it'd be good to bring him to have him do this. You know, he's got more experience running a firing line. He's got more experience with, you know, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. So let's you know, I asked him, I was like, would you be interested? And he's like, hell yeah. So yeah, I'm happy to have John. He does the range session on Saturday afternoon, and it's basic marksmanship stuff generally, right? We do a little bit of stuff on the timer towards the end just to validate what we've worked on for the day, but it's very, very simple. You know, coming out of the holster, firing that first shot, you know, recoil control, grip, all the just basics for handgun shooting. Then Sunday is spent, the entire days at my jiu-jitsu gym. So in the morning, we have 4 hours of pistol work with SIRT pistols. So SIRT pistols, for people that don't know, they're just laser training guns. They're shaped like a Glock 17. They're about the same weight. So we have holsters for everybody. We teach them how to draw from concealment. We do a little bit more work with grip and trigger just to reinforce. And then with the SIRT pistols, we kind of are able to use 3D targets. We use each other as targets. So I run that morning session, and we have people like, you know, I'll tell somebody, this guy over here is your target. Okay. Like non-specific. This isn't scenario based. Like, this is your target. This person is something you do not want to shoot. And then I have them crisscross back and forth. So your job is to line the sights, press the trigger, keep pressing the trigger. Whenever that person passes either in front or behind, you're going to go to a ready position and then come back up. So just basic stuff about like paying attention to what's in the foreground, what's in the background. We do a little bit of movement with the gun. We do extending, you know, appropriate extension. So compressing the gun, we get into Craig's thumb pectoral index stuff and getting really close. So that's pretty much the entire first part of that. So starting to learn how to fight with the gun, I guess, is the way to think about it. And then the second half of the day on Sunday is all of the close range clinch work. And then John runs that session. So close range clinch work. So we hit the thumb pectoral index stuff again, and then work on underhooks, work on, you know, getting to the back, basic Greco-Roman wrestling stuff. And then we add the gun to that. So it's a really, really cool training experience. Anybody, you know, all the people that we've had, and we got people with all kinds of experience. They all, at least they tell me that they all found it valuable and they all enjoyed it. So it's fun as hell to teach, man. It's so cool. It's really, really fun to do.
Oh, I'm sure. Like, I was like, you know, I follow all the stuff that Starting Strength does, and like I'm an avid listener to the podcast, and like, you know, listen to you guys, and I've heard you all talk about it, and I'm like, oh, let's jump over here. And like I was reading about it, and I'm like, so cool. I mean, like, so many people have put, you know, the fight and shoot together, but that first part, that lift part has always been missing, you know.
Right.
Awesome. And then, you know, I've been following you since the wife came home raving about her coaching class with you, you know. So I was like, oh, look at his credentials, this, that, you know. And I was like, and then I said to Pete, I'm like, hey, I want to get Nick on the show to talk about it, you know, because it seems like a really cool opportunity, you know, for people to, you know, take their personal training, their personal defense training, to either make a really good cornerstone of, okay, I know these are things that are really important, or somebody that's been doing all this other stuff that's, you know, fun with guns, or, you know, LARPing on the range where they think, you know, they're ready to go fight World War III, you know, like it's Red Dawn or something, you know, sort of brings them back around to, oh, wait, I've been doing this wrong, you know.
Exactly. Hey. Yeah. The overall intent, if I were to like try to narrow it down, the overall intent is to expose people to the idea that all three of these things matter, and that you should be spending some time and focusing some attention on lifting, shooting, and fighting. You know, if all you do is shoot, you're missing probably the fitness side, and you're also missing the fighting side. You know, you cannot separate the two if you want to consider yourself an effective practitioner of self-defense, or an effective whatever you want to call yourself, right? If you have this idea that you've got self-defense nailed, and you're ignoring any one of these three things, you don't have it nailed, right? So our idea here is to give people an exposure to all three, and really enough information. Like anything that we do at the Lift Shoot Fight Camp, you can do on your own. So you don't need me, you don't need John, you don't need Ripito to like, you don't need to pay us to tell you what to continue doing. Like everything we cover in that camp sets enough of a foundation for you to go find your own jiu-jitsu school, you know, find a firearms instructor, find coaching, or coach yourself, honestly, you know, with the resources that we have. So it's kind of, you think of it like a primer for all these things. Like what are the best resources for these areas that I need to focus on?
Yeah. And that's sort of like how Barret and I run basically the same class. You know, he says it Louisiana style, I say it's South Florida style, but we teach basically the same stuff. But like at the beginning of class, you know, I look at everybody and I say, okay, throughout the day or these next 2 days, you know, I want you to keep thinking about what we're doing, and, you know, keep these three things in mind. First, what are the skills that you think you're good enough at, that you can apply them on demand? What are you good at? The second one, what are you not good at, but think you should be better at? Keep mental notes of those, because the third question is, how do I get better at those things I identified in that second question? And if you don't know, at the end of this class, when we do our debrief and talk, I want you to ask me, what do I need to do? And that's what you're doing. You're giving them the pieces so that they know that third question. What do I need to continue working on?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
There. All right, Barret, I've been cutting you off again. Usually Barret talks more than I do. It's normally reversed.
I know. It feels weird sitting here not talking to him. Barret. No, okay. I've got questions.
And Nick's been, mentioned in one of our tour sponsors, the CERT. NLT CERT is one of our tour sponsors.
I don't have my PDN shirt on. I've got a stack of them behind me somewhere.
That's good to know. I've spent so much damn money on CERT pistols.
See, I brought a second shirt just in case Barret showed up with the same shirt I had on, so we didn't look like some weirdo Botsy twins or something.
And look, I ended up wearing a Be Alive shirt. No, okay. So, you know, I was pulling up the website a second ago and just seeing, hey, you know, is there a gym or a coach located in my area? And, you know, I'm in South Louisiana, didn't see anything. So for those people that are tuning in, that are like me and they don't have access, you know, to a coach near them, how does that work?
Yeah, your best option if you don't have a coach you can see in person. So in-person coaching is always superior to anything you can do remotely. And it's just the function of having somebody watching you in real time, giving you corrections. The second best option is to do remote coaching or online coaching. You can go to coaching.startingstrength.com, and we have a directory of all of our certified starting strength coaches on that website. Another option is to go to the Starting Strength Gyms website, and there is an online coaching program through the Starting Strength Gyms that you'll talk to somebody who will pair you up with a coach through the gyms network. So the Starting Strength Gyms coaches are either Starting Strength certified coaches, or they're coaches who work at a gym, are actively coaching people using Starting Strength at one of our franchise gyms. So so to answer your question, online coaching works great. I mean, I have a bunch of online clients that I work with, and they all make great progress. It's just slower and not as effective as having an in-person coach. But, you know, I mean, we have the internet now, we have smartphones, so why not? It works pretty damn well.
Yeah, no, definitely true.
That's what I've been doing for 2 years. I made it a point to get to a coaching clinic with Pete and Joe. I think it was Joe. I can't think of his last name. He's out
Jalasinski?
Up near Jacksonville area.
Lepo,
yeah, Joe Lepo. That's it. Yep. Went to them for the squat and the deadlift camp that they had, and then talked to Pete, and he said he might be having some openings. And like within a month, he texted me and said, "Hey, I got an opening if you want it." And I've been with him for 2 years, and it made a huge difference. Like I was still doing it all on my own. I can watch the videos of how to do the lifts, and I went to the camp, and like I was still doing the NLP, but I thought I was hitting parallel, and I wasn't.
Yeah, having a coach makes a big. I mean, I have a coach. I pay a coach every month. Will, the guy who rehab me, is still my coach, so I pay him every month. He sends me workouts. I send him videos. And usually my form is pretty good, so it's more like it's the accountability. It's having somebody outsourcing the thinking on like what my program needs to be is all beneficial. So yeah.
Same with me now. Like I almost like once in a blue moon I won't hit depth. But now it's usually, it's really Pete just programming me, like to keep me going up, and and paying that money and knowing that I'm accountable not just to myself but to my coach. Like I don't want to look like that guy that doesn't send me
exactly.
It's definitely motivational. Like, But I would give up so many other things in life before I'd give up my online coaching. Like literally would like sell my FJ before I'd give up my online coaching.
And look, and I've watched Deryck progress over the past couple of years, through his videos and stuff. And there's no doubt, dude, you're a stronger human because of it.
I was shaped like a pear before the motorcycle accident, and then actually before the motorcycle accident. So I was in Reno, Nevada teaching, and it was a 2-day class, and it was an advanced pistol handling class on day 1. Day 2, day 1 was advanced pistol handling class. The next day was the rifle class, or no, flip that. Did the rifle class, did all my demos, this, that, and the other, came out for APH, did the first grounded positioning, and literally could not get off the ground except for I'm not going to look bad in front of these students because of my back. Yeah. And the instructor I was working with, I'm like, hey, bro, I'm so sorry to do this to you, but all the grounded positioning you got to do because I almost didn't get off the ground. And that's when I texted my wife. She's been through some nutrition classes. She coaches CrossFit certified and all that other stuff. I'm like, you have license to tell me to eat whatever I have to eat. I'm done being like fat and useless. And I still didn't lift though. Like I was like, by the time I'm 50 for my 50th birthday, I'm going to be at my Marine Corps weight of 219. And I hit 219 with a broken leg in a chair. I got my last 5 pounds. And then I started lifting, and it was like all of a sudden my weight started going back up, and like my pants still fit and everything was the same. Right. I didn't care. And like then I was like, man, why did I lose all that weight and not lift? Like, why didn't I lift and lose weight at the same time?
It would have been more fun.
Yeah, like I was so overweight that like just eating right and lifting, I would have gotten stronger faster.
That's right.
And I would have lost the weight, as opposed to I spent a year losing the weight, and then I had to spend all these years. And it also set me back on my rehab, right? Because I was so light and my muscles were atrophied from sitting in the chair for so long. It was sort of like, do both at once. Don't sit there and think, I need to lose the weight and then I'll start lifting and getting strong. Do it at the same time. And you don't have to, and like, listen to Ripito and he'll be like, you're too light. You're too light. Like, I want to call in just one time and go, hey, Mark, I'm 53, I'm 6'4", and I weigh in at 250. And see if he tells me I'm too light.
Nah, he'll tell you you're good.
Okay.
Yeah,
does that mean I must be too light?
You're too light, Barret. I can only see you like from your shoulders up, but dude, yeah, you gotta get some weight, man.
Yeah, 5'11" ish, $180.
Yeah. What other questions did you have, Barret? Was that it?
That was it. Is if somebody wants to do it, and they don't have access to it locally, what are the steps?
Yep.
And I know that Deryck was, doing the remote coaching and whatnot. And so, like I said, I've watched his progression over the years. I've seen his videos. I watched him going from barely being able to do the lift to springing up after doing the lift and excited with a smile on his face.
That's mine once in a while. But see, Barret, you just need to move to Florida, because now Florida has 2 starting strength gyms. There's one in Tampa and one in Orlando.
Right.
Look, me, I've had one foot in the door in Florida at least for a decade at this point.
Like, Nick, this is one of the few training talks where Barrett's not on the road, and usually on the road means he's in the panhandle of Florida. Like it's like he will not stay in Louisiana.
Would you want to stay in Louisiana though? So. I mean, come on.
I don't know. I've only been there once. I went to visit him. I had to play the bad guy in his reality-based training class, so I had to lie.
Nice.
I had to die in a loud, grotesque manner over and over and over again.
Yeah, we've got good food. We've got that going for us.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Yep. No doubt.
I think, didn't Ripito call Louisiana to find out how Tabasco salt? What is it?
Oh, that was, well, I called because he was pronouncing Tabasco Tabasco.
That's it.
And
Nope.
yeah, Tabasco. So he was adamant, man. He's like, it's Tabasco. And I said, I just made the comment. Well, and then he said something about Avery Island. What is Avery Island? I was like, what the hell is Avery Island? He said, that's who makes Tabasco. So like, let's call Avery Island. And so on the podcast, we called them up and got their customer service people. And I asked the lady, how do you pronounce Tabasco? And she's like, what? And I said, look, we're recording a podcast. We need to settle this like right now. And so she said, Tabasco? And I was like, okay. And then Rip's listening in. He's like, and I go, is that how everybody there says it?
Yeah.
And so she goes, I have so-and-so over here. She's Cajun. So, and she says, yes, it's Tabasco. So we're like, well, there you go. It's Tabasco.
Yeah, no, true fact. In fact, until you just said that, I have never heard it pronounced any other way.
Nobody says it like that except Rip. It's really weird, man.
Like, honest to God, like, I would like to get, like, I don't know Mark Ripito. I only know like what I've seen from the podcast, but like, he's incredibly smart about starting strength and fit and getting strong and everything. But he's also very knowledgeable in a whole bunch of other areas. Like, he knows so much about so many different things. Well, the guy we work with, Rob Pincus, who Ripito like about lost his mind when Rob said something about Phoenix and the whole Biden thing, Phoenix ammo. I'd love to get those two together, and they would be the best of friends. I guarantee it, because they like, Rob is like incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly smart, just like Ripito, and knows a whole lot about a whole lot of different things. And they both like whiskey. I guarantee you they would be like the best of friends. And it would be it would be like one of those things you want to be the fly on the wall and just listen to them argue about stuff they don't agree with on each other.
Sure, right.
That would be so awesome. Like, so I'm like, Rob, we got to figure this out.
He's definitely a walking encyclopedia. He knows too much about too much random facts. But he's wrong about.
Not many people outside of Louisiana know about Avery Island.
Well, yeah, he's completely wrong about how to pronounce Tabasco, but at least he knew what Avery Island was, and I didn't know what Avery Island was.
Here's some more unique trivia about Avery Island. They imported the nutria rat for the hides and the pelt and fur trading, many years ago. But didn't count on the fact that Louisiana has hurricanes. And so the hurricanes come and take the nutria off the island to, mainland Louisiana, whereas they've been destroying our hurricane protection ever since. Big rats that have a bounty of, I think, $7 per tail from the state of Louisiana. In fact, all kind of people shoot them at night. They just had a huge nutria rodeo down in Venice, Louisiana, where they stacked thousands of them. Whoa. I mean, imagine like a U-Haul truck, and you open up the back of the U-Haul truck, and all you see are these, massive rats that are just stacked in the back.
Wow. What do they do with them? Just go burn them somewhere?
I don't even want to know.
That's gross.
I don't know. Maybe some people eat them down here.
Yeah,
it's a vegan rat. So some people do eat them. I mean, it's Louisiana, right? We'll put Tabasco on anything and call it a meal. But yes, we've got these massive rats that run around the marsh, bury holes and everything. We've even got a local SWAT team down here that rides around the suburb of New Orleans at night, with suppressed 22s in the back of a pickup truck and take them out.
That'd be a fun job, man.
I know.
Right?
I was just thinking, do they take volunteers? Like, that'd be fun.
I'll go do that for a weekend. That'd be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So Nick, did we miss anything? Because I know I got you sidetracked hitting like, I'll talk starting strength all the time with anybody. So, but did we miss anything? But
I don't no. I mean, I don't think so.
I didn't think so either. But
Yeah.
Cool.
So I posted, a couple of minutes ago, I posted I think a QR code. I think this is the proper link for the training camp, Wichita Falls, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
All right. Did some Googling a second ago, found that. And so anybody that wants more information on that training camp, hit that QR code. It'll take you over there to give you the rest of the information on that. And if people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, my
besides that link.
Yeah, through that link. My email is nick@liftfightwin.com. Yeah, I'm on social media and stuff, but yeah, that's probably the best way to get in contact with me if anybody has any questions.
Cool. And Nick, I'm gonna bug you to get you as a PDN contributor, because like Craig Douglas is a PDN contributor. Cecil Birch is so is Tom Givens is a PDN contributor. So I'm gonna hit you up about that, because next year when the tour comes around, once you're a contributor, since you use CERT all the time, it seems like a really good fit.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I'd be honored to do it, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might as well, man. You're teaching good stuff. You might as well become a contributor, to the show and get out on the PDN training tour next year.
Awesome.
As well, and be teaching it. I did post a QR code for anybody watching the show that wants more information on the training tour. We're in the middle of it right now. I've got classes coming up in Barely, Texas, kind of Louisiana-Texas border in Beaumont. Here in a couple of weeks. I know Deryck's got classes coming up. Where's your next class, Deryck?
Saturday. I'm in Manatee. We're doing a full day of defensive focus shooting, defensive IDS, whatever name you want to call it. Counter ambush pistol. How about that?
Counter ambush pistol. Definitely. And there's other awesome instructors teaching around the country as well on the training tour, but that QR code will give you the calendar information on those classes as well.
And we can't forget our sponsor, because I did it at the very beginning. You left it to me, and I showed zero discipline and just jumped right in and started hitting Nick with questions and stories.
Right? I know. I came back. I'm like, wow, they're in it. So I threw it up. Primary Arms Online is running a free hat sale today. And so I think any purchase on most of their stuff gets you a free hat. But if you haven't been to their website, definitely check it out. They are top of the line website for firearms and accessories, that kind of stuff, and have been very kind sponsoring the show. So tonight's show is definitely brought to you by Primary Arms Online. Any last thoughts, guys?
No. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for making time. I know you're busy. You got right off the teaching some stuff at your BJJ school, I think.
Yeah, I left halfway through the class and just told everybody, don't kill each other when you're rolling, and I got to go.
Nice.
But
definitely.
I
appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Great, solid information from you tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show, and we'll catch everyone next time. See y'all next month on Training Talk with Deryck, Poole, and I. We will be the first Thursday in June.